Thank you very much for coming out tonight. And I'm going to give you a very, very brief overview of energy from waste, how we got to where we are, what we can do about it, and what the City of Toronto is doing. So basically, energy from waste is a process that uses residual waste or wet waste and produces a commodity at the end of the process that is a valuable commodity. It's either steam, it's electricity, it's gas. So there are two different types of feedstock, one of which is residual waste, and residual waste is something that happens, or something that is defined by the product that is not collected in a green bin, not collected in the blue bin that you have, and it's basically all the garbage that is there. So that's considered residual waste. And it is stuff that cannot physically be recycled, cannot physically be composted, and all the stuff that people cannot separate or choose not to separate. So there's a large capture. And the other type of an EFW handles wet waste, and wet waste is all the stuff that comes out of the green bin. It's very, very high in moisture content, about 80% water. It's not amenable to this mass form of incineration because it is so wet. It takes a lot of energy to dry it out and to burn it up. And when you get to the point where you're incinerating, for lack of a better term, residual waste, there are basically two types of incineration. One of which is a mass burn, and another one is basically a sophisticated thermal process of gasification or pyrolysis or something like that. How did we get to the point where we're starting to use energy from waste? In the past, basically, garbage disposal was, well, I'm going to go take it to the city dump, I'm going to dispose it there, or I'm going to burn it in an old type incinerator that had no scrubber, that had no energy recovery, that had nothing, or I'm just going to go put it in a landfill. Well, if you've ever tried to site a landfill, which I also have done, it's a very, very onerous, very, very expensive, very difficult process, huge NIMBYism, huge concerns about environmental degradation. There are huge problems with it. So about 20 years ago, there was a process that was initiated by the provincial government that tried to help municipalities deal with their unbelievable quantities of waste. They couldn't find landfills. They just couldn't do it. It was really, 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 really difficult. So it was called the Interim Waste Authority. They tried all over the city to find 3 separate landfills that would handle the waste from the Durham region, that would handle the waste from the Metro region, and that would handle the waste from Peel. It was unsuccessful. No landfills were sited anywhere. So now you have a situation where municipalities have no place to dispose of their waste. They start to export. And very often, cities and villages have no ability to handle their waste within their own boundaries. The City of Toronto for decades have been using landfills in Maple, have been using landfills in Peterborough. They fill up and there's no place to go. So they started to export, and they exported the waste down into Michigan. And then there were problems with cross-border issues going into the United States, so they started to look at various other options. The other option that they finally settled on was purchasing a landfill near London, Ontario, called Green Lane Landfill. So the issues that we're having to deal with in terms of energy and waste is that we have a landfill crisis. It's difficult to site them, it's difficult because they fill up. So we're in a conundrum. What do? We can't just simply go and put waste into a landfill. They fill up really, really, really quickly. Recycling, and it's also at the same time that recycling programs are beginning to come on stream, and we're beginning to start to look at different ways of using our waste products and considering them as a resource as opposed to simply a waste product. So they start to look across the field. What's happening in other jurisdictions? They start to look at Europe. Europe, as part of the European Union, has a landfill directive that says we're not going to build any more landfills in the European Union unless is to take waste that has already been treated. And that means that it has already been through another process. Meaning, what are we going to do with it? Are we going to do some sort of treatment to it? It could be mechanical, biological treatment. It could be that we're going to compost part of it, and we're only going to landfill that very, very, very small component at the end of it, and that will be what we're going to do. So energy from waste facilities started because there was really a landfill crisis. Some people think that energy from waste facilities are really ways to generate power. They're not. It's a very, 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 very expensive way to generate power. It's a very polluting way to generate power. There are many, many other options. They're really a way to deal with a huge volume of waste in a very efficient manner. Sorry, okay. In terms of wet waste, there are various products that can be produced, and wet waste is something that comes out of your green bin. It is something that is like animal manures. There's a little product or a little process called zoo poo that is now going on, and by composting it and handling it through an anaerobic digester, you can create syngas. Syngas can actually run a turbine, and you can actually generate electricity from that. There are examples also in other jurisdictions where they have had landfill crises that handle each particular waste stream in a different manner. So they maximize the energy component associated with each particular waste stream. So you would handle wet waste differently than you would handle dry waste, that you would handle recycling or anything. And all of these have a revenue stream attached to it. There are no perfect solutions to waste disposal. Nothing is absolutely perfect, but you really have to take a waste audit perspective, look at what you're producing, and see what your options are. In Toronto, they have done precisely that. We have a number of different waste management strategies. And one of the waste management strategies is to compost, is to have anaerobic digestion, and to create some sort of compostable product at various grades at the very end of it. The other thing that the City of Toronto does is to have robust yard waste collection. They also have robust recycling programs. But we're still left with a certain amount of waste that is residual waste. And that is where you and I all come into play, where some of us don't recycle correctly. We don't always separate our waste correctly. Sometimes we get lazy and we just say, we'll just throw it out. So all of that now is considered residual because it's not a dedicated stream of waste. It's not a dedicated feedstock. So it has to be handled differently. All of these have a great cost associated with them. And they also have to have a technology that can handle a whole range of products. These mass burn incineration technologies or these pyrolysis technologies can handle mixed waste, but they're expensive solutions. I'm going to hand my talk over. Rod?